discover the incredible transformation, how Mockery led to life-changing success after 12 years. Janelle woke up every morning before dawn, reminded of a time when she was the bright star of her high school. Now, at 34, she felt like a ghost in her own small Midwestern town. Each day she juggled multiple low-paying jobs, mere whispers in the ears of her former classmates who thrived, scoffing at her struggle. "Look at Janelle," they'd say, stuck in that run-down house with her kid. It wasn't mere judgment, it was an arrow, sharp and biting, aimed straight at her heart. As she prepared breakfast for Ethan, the smallest of smiles crossed her face, a flicker of hope igniting in the weight of their reality. "Remember, buddy," she often said, "hard work and integrity will get us there." But every glance at their peeling paint house felt like a reminder of her failure, a reminder of what they weren't. Despite her relentless effort, Janelle felt invisible, trapped in a cycle that seemed impossible to escape. But today felt different. While sorting through flyers at the community center, a community organizer training program caught her eye. Her heart raced. Could this be her chance? She imagined working alongside others who also felt the weight of disdain, transforming their hurt into something powerful. Nervous yet determined, she took the plunge. The first meeting was filled with a mix of doubt and excitement, and as she opened her mouth to speak, the room quieted. "I want to help us find a way out of this," she said, her voice shaking yet strong. Slowly, she saw heads nodding. Hope blossomed. But as her voice grew, the attacks intensified. Former friends became shadows, sneering and dismissing her ambitions. "Janelle thinks she's going to change the world," they laughed, masking their mockery as concern. Each comment felt like a fist to her gut, brutal and soul-crushing. But she wouldn't back down. Their judgment would not define her. Then came a pivotal moment. Janelle organized a community event, a chance for everyone to come together and openly share their struggles. "We deserve to be heard," she proclaimed. Yet as the crowd gathered, discomfort hung thick in the air. Old classmates exchanged eye rolls and snickers, but she pressed on, fueled by an unyielding spirit. Before her heart stopped beating in fear, an unexpected sound broke through the derision. A single voice among the derision. "I lost my job last year," a woman finally said, her cheeks stained with tears. One after another, stories began to emerge like butterflies breaking free from cocoons. Janelle's chest tightened, tears stung her eyes, and she felt an electric pulse of connection rippling through the crowd. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. As laughter mixed with tears, walls began to crumble. Facades of invulnerability faded, replaced by a shared vulnerability, an understanding that beneath their differences, they shared scars. Suddenly, Janelle was no longer alone in her fight. The dream felt real, almost palpable, and that brief moment of connection made her heart swell. Yet, a looming question hung heavy in the air. Could this fragile bond withstand the harsh judgment of their pasts? With bated breath, Janelle stood in front of her neighbors, her pulse racing, wondering if anyone would dare to step across the divide. Would they take that chance with her, or would Mockery win again? The murmurs filled the room, weaving through the air like a fragile thread. Janelle's heart raced as she watched her neighbors exchanging glances, each flicker of their eyes wrapping her in a tight embrace of hope and fear. This was the moment she had waited for, a chance to pull them together, to transform the hurt that bound them. But would they take the leap with her? Let's support each other, she urged, her voice gaining strength but tinged with desperation. We can't let their judgment make us feel small anymore. As if in answer, an older man named Marcus, whom Janelle had barely known, stepped forward. He adjusted his glasses and cleared his throat. I've been afraid to share, he began, but I too have faced hard times. I lost my wife, and my support system fell away. I thought I was all alone. The vulnerability in his voice sliced through the stillness. It was the start of something. One by one, others began to share their stories. A mother spoke of her struggles after sudden layoffs. A young man revealed the shadows of addiction that had dominated his life, and a teenager voiced feelings of isolation and despair. Each voice rose in the room, carrying pieces of hidden pain, resonating deeply with the crowd. Tears streamed down some faces, while others sought solace in shared laughter and nodding heads. The atmosphere shifted, electric, with a sense of unity. Janelle felt her heart soar. They were no longer just bystanders in their lives. They were becoming a community. And then it happened. A young woman, someone Janelle had once regarded as one of those who laughed and scoffed, took a deep breath and shared her own battle. I pretended everything was perfect, she confessed, but my life has fallen apart too. I thought I was better than... The break in her voice made the room still again. But I'm not. I'm scared. Janelle stepped closer, emboldened by the atmosphere. We're all scared, but we're stronger together. Let's build something. Let's support one another. This is not just about us. It's about showing everyone that we're worthy of love, respect, and a second chance. The warmth of connection crackled around them, a bond forming through their shared experiences and emerging hope. As the sun began to set, Janelle raised her voice, simple yet powerful. Let's meet every week, share what we're going through, what we need, and how we can help one another. Let's challenge this town's views together. There were nods, murmurs of agreement, and even some reluctant smiles. It was happening, the shift she had craved. She could feel the energy pulsing through all of them, igniting a deep-rooted desire for change. However, just as they seemed unified, an intrusive voice cut through the moment. What makes you think you can lead, Janelle? It was Samantha, her high school rival, who strode through the crowd, a smirk etched across her face. Still living in that poor house? Good luck changing anyone's mind. The laughter that erupted felt like icy water thrown on Janelle's fiery resolve. Doubt flickered at the edges of her mind, threatening to extinguish the connection that had just begun to bloom. The embers of confidence wavered, and a chill crept in. But then she remembered Marcus, the stories shared, the tears, the laughter, and the strength that had come from it all. Would she let a single voice of mockery drown out the multitude of support? Janelle stood taller, her chin raised defiantly. Even if I'm stuck, I am still here, and I will fight for us. If you don't want to come along, that's your loss. The words hung in the air, tinged with a new determination. The crowd stirred, murmurs of approval rippling through. Janelle felt a surge of courage. But could she truly keep that fire lit against the storm of judgment that lay ahead? Would they all stand together when the tides rose against them? As she locked eyes with some of her newfound allies, she sensed their collective resistance blooming. But Samantha's sneer still lingered in her mind, and the uncertainty gnawed at her. The journey ahead would not be easy. Would they find the strength to stand together against their past and the judgment of their hometown? Or would mockery suffocate their fragile beginnings? The room buzzed with a mix of excitement and uncertainty. Janelle could feel the weight of the moment hanging heavily in the air. Each person present had dipped their toes into vulnerability, and now they were perched on the edge of something greater. It was intoxicating, yet terrifying. As the group began to disperse, Janelle turned to look at Marcus. His eyes sparkled with the promise of new beginnings. "We have to plan our first meeting," she said. "Let's figure out what we need. We can't lose momentum." A voice, gentle yet firm, interrupted. "What about the kids?" It was Laura, the mother who had shared her struggles with unemployment. "They need to see change too. Maybe some kind of support for them?" Janelle nodded, that spark igniting again in her chest. "You're right, Laura. A space for everyone, all ages." She felt a thrill at the idea, as if they could build a haven amid the judgment they faced. "Yes, we need it," chimed in the teenager, who had previously spoken of feeling isolated. "What if we had workshops? Something fun, creative? Then we could share more too." His enthusiasm was contagious, and Janelle could see flickers of hope blossom in others as they started to brainstorm. But then the shadow of doubt loomed again. The face of Samantha flashed in Janelle's mind. What if they failed? What if they came together only to be torn apart again? Would anyone care enough to stick around once the initial excitement faded? Janelle felt her own resolve cooling. "Hey!" a young voice broke through her spiraling thoughts. It was the young man with addiction struggles. He had raised his hand, a look of earnestness in his eyes. "I know how it feels to think no one will care. But look at us. We're here. And we're willing to fight. Let's give it a shot." His words were like a lifeline tossed into turbulent seas. Janelle turned to the others, gauging their reactions. Faces lit up with tentative hope, and her heart squeezed with encouragement. "Okay, then," Janelle said, an edge of excitement creeping into her voice. "Let's decide on a name for our group, something that reflects who we are, together." As conspiratorial whispers filled the room, she felt a warmth wrap around her heart. They were becoming a tribe, forged from shared struggles, but ready to embrace triumph. Laughter bubbled over as ideas flew around, a name here, an idea there, and for a moment the laughter drowned out the echoes of Mockery. "We should call it Unity Rising," Marcus said, a determined glint in his eye. Or Together We Thrive, Laura added. Janelle smiled broadly, her worries drifting away like leaves on water. No one could take this moment from them. They settled on a name, one that resonated and felt like a battle cry: Community Resilience. It rang with power and purpose, igniting a fire within them all. But as they left the gathering, Janelle's phone buzzed. A notification from social media flashed, and her heart sank. People were already mocking their plans online, twisting the name both with laughter and scorn. Could this community, built so lovingly, withstand the outside voices? Would they lean on each other when the world pushed back? A chill seeped through her, wrapping around her like a shroud. Just as she steeled herself to move past it, she remembered the strength they had shown tonight. And still, that nervous knot twisted in her stomach. What if their hard-won connections weren't enough to combat the brewing storm? As she looked around at her neighbors, their faces shadowed with worry but glimmers of hope weighing heavy on their hearts, Janelle wondered, how long could they stay united in the face of backlash? With the world against them, could they truly rise together? The dawn broke slowly, flooding the horizon with hues of orange and gold, but inside Janelle felt a gray cloud hovering. Sleep had eluded her, and the mocking comments from social media echoed in her mind like an endless loop. She had dreamed of a future filled with laughter and support, but now the reality felt heavy. As she stepped out onto her porch, the cool morning air was refreshing against her skin. Birds chirped their morning songs, blissfully unaware of the turmoil that brewed in her heart. She could see the community center across the street, a place that could be a beacon of hope, if only they could stand strong against the tide of ridicule. It was time to rally her thoughts, to gather her strength. Janelle took a deep breath, summoning the determination that had sparked life in Community Resilience. Just then, a group of kids raced by on their bikes, their laughter ringing out like a sweet melody. The sight pulled at her heart. They needed this. They deserved a space where they could connect, to learn and grow, away from negativity. Janelle grabbed her phone, her fingers hesitating before she typed a message to the group. "We need to come together today. Let's not let the outside noise drown us." Rereading her words, she pressed send and felt a flicker of hope ignite, as if the universe acknowledged her bravery. Within an hour, responses started pouring in. Each message brought life back into her spirit. They were ready to meet, to confront the naysayers head on. Marcus and Laura were the first to arrive, their faces reflecting shared concern, but also resilience. "What's the plan?" Laura asked, her brow slightly furrowed. Janelle knew that everyone was thinking the same thing. How could they fight back? "I was thinking," Janelle hesitated, searching for the right words, "what if we hold a community event? We showcase our talents, our stories, and why we are building this group. Let's invite the families, the kids, everyone. Let's show them that we are more than just a name to poke fun at." Marcus nodded, excitement lighting up his features. "Yeah, we can set up booths for workshops, maybe some performances. It can be a festival, something the whole neighborhood won't forget." As they brainstormed, energy filled the room and ideas flowed freely. What started as a response to ridicule transformed into a rallying cry. They would create something special, an event that showcased not just who they were, but who they wanted to be. Just when it seemed everything was falling into place, a knock at the door broke their rhythm. It was the young man from last night, the one struggling with addiction. He looked different, more resolute. "I heard what you're planning," he said, his voice steady. "Can I help? I want to share my story, how I'm trying to change. If it helps even one person, it'll be worth it." Janelle's heart swelled. "Absolutely. Your story matters, just like all of ours do." As the four of them huddled together, the rhythm of ideas and stories flowed around the room. Laughter mixed with plans became a melody of hope, their ambition rising in defiance of the darkness that had threatened to pull them down. But deep inside, a nagging thought lingered. Would their event truly be embraced, or would resentment and mockery spill back into their lives? As Janelle glanced at her phone, messages of support and doubt intertwined. Would they be able to turn the tide? Would this event truly be the launch pad for their transformation, or merely a fleeting moment of strength? The sun dipped lower, casting a warm glow, and uncertainty clutched her heart again. How far could their fleeting moment of strength go against the waves of scorn? The real challenge was yet to come. The morning light shifted as Janelle, Marcus, Laura, and the young man stood in their shared space, buzzing with a mix of excitement and apprehension. The excitement was palpable, like the crackling of a fire ready to ignite. Yet beneath that spark was the constant weight of fear. "Let's divide the tasks," Janelle suggested, trying to rein in her racing thoughts. "Marcus, you handled the performances. Maybe we can get the kids from the neighborhood to sing or dance." "Count me in," he grinned, already envisioning the talent he could rally. "And I'll reach out to local businesses for sponsorships and donations. We can make this event bigger," Laura chimed in, her enthusiasm contagious. "Perfect," Janelle said, her heart swelling at the thought of all their ideas coming together. "As for you," she turned to the young man whose name she had yet to learn, "what would you like to share? Your story could be powerful, and people need to hear it." He hesitated, running a hand through his hair. "I've been through a lot, and I know there are others like me who feel lost. I want to be real about my struggles. If someone sees they're not alone, it might just help them find their way." Janelle nodded, absorbing every word. His determination fueled her, pushing away any lurking doubts. "Let's make a workshop space just for sharing these stories. It can be a safe place for all. We'll show what resilience looks like." They spent the rest of the morning sketching the outline of their event on the whiteboard. Laughter punctuated moments of brainstorming, but the underlying tension persisted, like a clinging shadow. As they mapped out every corner of the day, they discussed music, food, art, and how to invite the community, a broader community than they had pictured at first. The sky outside turned a deeper shade of blue as their ideas expanded. But with every new plan, Janelle wrestled with that nagging uncertainty. Would the people who had mocked them come? And if they did, how would they respond? Would they laugh, jeer, or finally listen? Later, as they took a break, Janelle stepped outside. The air was thick with the scent of blooming flowers, reminiscent of childhood summers. She closed her eyes for a moment, breathing it all in, hoping for clarity. That's when she spotted a woman across the street, standing in her yard, eyes locked at the community center. It was one of the very women who had thrown insults their way online. Janelle felt her heart race. What if she was here to continue the attack, to belittle their efforts? But as the woman approached, Janelle noted the change in her expression. A softness, a hint of curiosity. "I heard about the event you're planning," she said slowly. "I wanted to see what it was all about." Janelle steeled herself. "We're trying to create something good for everyone, a place for us to come together and share our stories." The woman shifted nervously on her feet, then blurted, "I'm sorry for what I said. I wasn't in a good place. Can I help?" Janelle blinked, taken aback, her heart pounding. Could this really be happening? A part of her wanted to reject the offer, but another part, one that craved connection, was curious. "Sure, we could use all the help we can get," she replied cautiously. With a tentative nod and a shared smile, something shifted. The boundaries between them began to fade, just a little. Janelle felt a flicker of hope again, igniting deep within. What if they could turn their pain into something beautiful? What if the unpredictability of the community could actually bind them together? As evening descended, the last remnants of daylight illuminated her face. A single thought loomed larger than her doubts. They were really going to do this. But as her phone buzzed with another notification, she felt a chill twist in her stomach. What would it say? Would it be another cruel jab, or another sign that they were not alone? The real test loomed ahead, but what would it reveal about them and the community they aspired to nurture? Janelle's heart raced as she glanced at her phone. The screen lit up, casting a glow that felt like a spotlight on a stage waiting for the next act to begin. She hesitated, a mix of curiosity and dread, before swiping her finger across the screen. A message blinked back at her, jarring her moment of peace. It was from a friend she'd grown distant from during the storm of ugly comments and ridicule. "Hey, just saw your event announcement. Sounds interesting. Want to grab coffee and talk?" Should she reach out? Could they really dive back into friendship after everything that had happened? Janelle bit her lip, caught between a longing for connection and the memories of hurt. But the flicker of hope from earlier pushed her. What if she could turn that awkward interaction into something deeper? "Is everything all right?" Laura's voice snapped her out of her swirling thoughts. Janelle looked up, meeting her friend's eyes. "Yeah, just got a message. An old friend." "Could be a good thing, right?" Marcus chimed in, appearing at the door with a platter of sandwiches. "Just like the lady from across the street. Sometimes people surprise you." "Yeah, maybe," Janelle replied, wanting to believe it. "You're building something here, Janelle," Laura said earnestly, her hands gesturing toward the whiteboard filled with their plans. "We all are. This event can be a turning point." As they gathered around the makeshift table, sharing sandwiches and enthusiasm, the dialogue shifted. They discussed who could perform, what food vendors they could approach, and how to share their personal stories in a way that felt genuine, yet uplifting. "Let's bring in someone from the outside, like a local poet or a motivational speaker, a surprise that could draw in a crowd." Janelle's thoughts turned back to the woman who had apologized earlier. Did they have space for someone who had once hurt them? Could they use her insight to connect with others? The duality felt familiar yet foreign. Absolutely. We want diverse voices, Janelle said, her excitement growing. We can show how we're not defined by our past mistakes. As they continued brainstorming, the rhythm of their laughter and brainstorming washed over Janelle like sunlight breaking through clouds. It was easy to forget the fear that had knotted her stomach earlier. They had each other, people who understood the struggle. Later that evening, Janelle found herself alone again, the thrill of their discussions still buzzing in her mind. She needed time to think. The warmth of the taco truck's torchlight's glow dimmed slowly as she walked toward the community center, matching her pace to the calming sounds of the night. However, beneath the normality of crickets chirping and the occasional car passing, another message pinged on her phone. This one was from a number she didn't recognize. "Your event won't change anything. You should just quit while you're ahead." The words hit her like ice water, freezing the hope she had felt just moments before. Shadows crept back into her mind, and she felt the weight of her past fears pressing down again. What if they were right? What if this was just another reminder of what could go wrong? But the faces of Marcus, Laura, and even the woman across the street flickered through her mind, reminders of the fight, the laughter, and the possibility of connection. They were all real. Taking a deep breath, Janelle steadied herself. The next day would be pivotal, critical. They had to gather support. They couldn't let negativity win. Each step was a choice, a fight for belonging. As night deepened around her, she felt a surge of determination. Tomorrow, she would reach out to that old friend and ask for coffee. Maybe they could come together after all. But as she prepared to head back inside, a nagging question loomed. Would the doubters silence their voices? Or would they finally listen? Would she, and they, be able to show the community that transformation was possible? Janelle woke up to the soft rays of sunlight spilling through her window, illuminating the room in a gentle glow. Today was the day she would reach out to her old friend and share a moment that could change everything. Her heart fluttered like a bird in a cage, both anxious and hopeful. After a quick breakfast, she took a deep breath and pulled up the message on her phone. The name lit up the screen, and she found her fingers hovering over the keyboard. A million possibilities raced through her mind. What if they didn't connect? What if the coffee was awkward, a reminder of all that had been lost? But then that flicker of hope returned. She wanted to believe that whatever had happened in the past could be mended. "Hey, would love to grab that coffee. What time works for you?" She hit send before she could overthink it. The wait felt like an eternity. Janelle busied herself, tidying up her space, preparing materials for the event, but her mind kept wandering back to that moment. What would happen when they met? Would the hurt overshadow the healing? Finally, her phone buzzed again. A reply. "Great! How about 2 at the cafe on Main?" The simple invitation filled her with warmth. There was a possibility here, a chance for new beginnings, and she couldn't shake the smile that spread across her face. With the coffee date settled, Janelle returned to work. Her friends arriving for their planning session brought a palpable energy. Marcus had brought along a poster he had designed, full of bright colors and bold typography. "Look at this," he beamed, holding it up high. "This is going to catch everyone's attention." Laura nodded enthusiastically, tapping her pen against the notepad. "It's perfect, Marcus. It shows all the different voices we want to include. It feels alive." But even surrounded by the camaraderie of her friends, Janelle felt a slight flutter of tension in her gut. The looming doubt from the message the previous night hovered like a gray cloud above her, creeping back into her thoughts. "Anyone up for some brainstorming?" she suggested, sweeping aside her worries as best she could. They dove into ideas, and Janelle found herself thrown into the lively exchange. They spoke about possible performers, ways to promote the event, and the overall message they hoped to convey. Laughter danced through the air as they built on each other's ideas, the weight of their collective stories weaving together into something powerful. Yet as they worked, a part of her remained distant. Her mind couldn't shake the thought of the coffee meeting later. Would she find clarity? The evening would be pivotal, not just for her and the friend, but for the event. What if reconciliation led to inspiration? Or would it crumble further into uncertainty? As the day wore on, the clock ticked closer to 2. Janelle found herself standing in front of the cafe, the rich aroma of freshly brewed coffee wafting through the open door. She could do this. It wasn't about the past, but about moving forward. As she stepped inside, she spotted her friend waiting at a table, nervous energy buzzing in the air. Their eyes met, and a rush of memories flooded back, the laughter, the arguments, and the distance. "Hey," her friend said softly, a nervous smile breaking the ice. "Hey," Janelle replied, her heart beating wildly. In that moment, the potential for change crackled like electricity between them. Could this be the bridge they needed to reconnect? As they began to talk, another voice echoed in Janelle's mind, that voice from last night. Would this meeting end in hope or doubt? As they sipped their coffee and shared their stories, Janelle felt the weight of both paths merging, leaving her on the brink of a revelation. What truths would come to light? What connection awaited her on the other side of this conversation? She could only hope it wasn't just a fleeting moment, but the start of something profound. Janelle shifted slightly in her chair, the warm cup of coffee cradled in her hands. She watched her friend's eyes dart around the cafe, as if searching for the right words. The sunlight streaming through the window illuminated the tension in the space between them, a shadow of their shared past hanging in the air. "So, how have you been?" her friend finally asked, breaking the silence. There was a tentative curiosity in the tone, like they were both standing on a tightrope stretched above a deep chasm. "I've been good," Janelle replied, trying to inject warmth in her voice. "Busy with planning this community event. We're trying to highlight diverse voices. I hoped a simple topic could ease them into the conversation." Her friend nodded, but looked uneasy. "I saw the poster on social media. It looks amazing." A flicker of pride ignited in Janelle. "Thanks. It's a lot of work, but it feels important. We're really trying to make a difference." But her friend's smile didn't quite reach their eyes, and the unspoken heaviness of their past hung between them like an unseen thread. "I wish I could help," they said softly. It was the acknowledgement of their rift, the hurt they had both felt. She leaned in, vulnerability blooming in her chest. "You haven't missed out. Life just took us in different directions, but maybe it's time we find a way back." A beat passed, their gazes locking. There was a flutter of something. Hope, perhaps. Then silence fell around them again. "Remember that summer we spent in the park?" her friend asked, a hint of nostalgia woven in their smile. "We thought we could change the world. We had all those ideas." "Yes! The lemonade stand for charity," Janelle laughed, her heart warming at the memory. "We barely made $10, but it felt like we were doing something big, you know?" Her friend chuckled, and for a moment the years slipped away. The atmosphere lightened, the cafe around them blurring into a focus that felt intimate and true. Yet there was a deeper undercurrent to their conversation, a longing for reconciliation that made Janelle's heart race. "Things got tough after that," her friend admitted, their expression clouding over. "We drifted, and it hurt. I always thought we could come back to where we started, but I didn't know how." Janelle's breath caught. It was like a door had been opened to their shared grief. "I didn't reach out either. I was afraid." The honesty hung there, thick in the air. They both had carried the weight of their relationship, both unsure how to mend the pieces. But as they shared their stories, the missed calls, the awkward silences, the moments that had almost been, it became clear they weren't just reminiscing, they were building a bridge. "I want us to be a part of each other's lives again," Janelle said, her voice steady despite the rapid beating of her heart. "I really do." Her friend's eyes shimmered with a mixture of hope and relief. "Me too. I didn't realize how much I missed you until now." For the first time since they'd sat down, Janelle felt the knot inside her begin to unravel. This wasn't just coffee. It was the beginning of healing, a mutual recognition of everything they had lost and everything they could still become together. But just as things were looking up, her phone vibrated on the table, a stark reminder of reality pulling her back. The screen read, "Event venue issue, urgent." Janelle's heart sank. "I'm so sorry. I have to—" "Hey, it's okay. Let's not lose touch this time, please." Janelle nodded, determination surging through her. "Definitely. I'll call you later." As she stepped out of the cafe, the promise of a renewed friendship buzzed in her veins, mixed with the urgency of her responsibilities. Could she truly balance her newfound connection with everything demanding her attention? The sun shone brightly, and for the first time in a long while, Janelle felt lighter. She took a deep breath, knowing the real challenge awaited her in the chaos ahead. Would she manage to keep this promise, or would the weight of her duties crush the hope they'd just sparked? The clock ticked on. Time would tell. Janelle hurried down the bustling street, the bright sun glaring down as her thoughts swirled like autumn leaves tossed in the wind. The cafe she had just left felt like a sanctuary from the storm brewing around her, both in her personal life and the chaos of the event she was organizing. With each step, she clutched her phone tightly, the urgent message still burning into her mind. Somehow, she needed to pull together the failing logistics of the community event without sacrificing the fragile bond she had just begun to repair with her friend. Her heart raced as the shadows of uncertainty loomed over her. Would they be there to support her? In the moment of reconnecting, Janelle had filled with hope, but now the looming issues felt like shackles pulling her back into isolation. Upon arriving at the venue, her breath quickened. The sight of the empty hall echoed her apprehensions. Chairs were stacked on tables, a mess of wires and cables lay scattered on the floor, and the air smelled faintly of stale paint. It was nothing like the vibrant community gathering she had envisioned. As she stepped inside, her phone chimed again. Another text. "Still working on sound setup, should be there soon." Relief mingled with anxiety as she typed back a quick response. She needed every helping hand she could get. "Janelle!" someone shouted from across the hall. It was Ben, the sound technician, rushing over with a sense of urgency. "Sorry for the delay. We hit a snag with the equipment." Panic surged through her as she tried to mask it with a smile. "Just do your best," she said, forcing confidence into her voice. "We need everything perfect for tomorrow." As he hurried off, she glanced around. Pictures of local artists covered the walls. This event was meant to showcase talent and bring the community together, yet the mounting pressure was squeezing the life out of her enthusiasm. "Excuse me," a voice called. Janelle turned to see a familiar face, a woman she hadn't seen in years. It was Clara, an old college friend who had once been her confidant, but now felt like a ghost of the past. "I saw your poster, and I wanted to help. I can coordinate the decorations if you'd like." A wave of warmth washed over Janelle. "You would do that? That would be incredible." The tension in her chest eased slightly. Maybe this was a sign. Clara always had an eye for detail, and it felt nice to welcome someone back into her life. They quickly fell into rhythm as Clara started sharing her ideas. The blend of laughter and planning seemed to ease the burden resting on Janelle's shoulders. But amid the joy, an uncomfortable thought nagged at her. She hadn't told Clara about her coffee with her old friend. Would she think she was giving in too easily? "Hey," Ben called out, interrupting her spiraling thoughts. "We're ready to test the sound. Can you come check this out?" As they made adjustments, the mic finally worked perfectly. The room boomed with clear sound, filling the empty spaces. A small cheer erupted around her, and adrenaline surged through her veins. This was it. The lifeline of her event was alive. But beneath the thrill, doubt lingered. Was it enough? Was she truly ready to bring people together again after everything that had kept her apart? Clara's hand gripped her shoulder, grounding her. "You're doing great. Just remember, it's about the connections we make, not perfection." Janelle nodded, feeling the warmth of Clara's support seep into her. Yet, just as she started to feel confident, her phone buzzed again. A message from her friend. "We need to talk. Serious." The words struck her like a cold wave. What now? As she stared at the screen, questions raced in her mind. What did this mean for the renewal she had just worked to build? Would the past continue to haunt her, or could she face it head on? The clock was ticking. Tomorrow would reveal everything. The anxiety spiked again. Would she be ready? The day finally dawned brighter than Janelle had anticipated, the sun casting golden hues over the community center. Today was the day they had all been working toward, each moment leading her closer to a potential reckoning with the community and her own past. A flutter of excitement mixed with nerves danced in her stomach as she walked through the entrance. The hall was a burst of color, thanks to Clara's stunning decorations. Overhead, homemade banners proclaimed, "Community Resilience, Together We Rise," a reminder of their journey and the strength they had forged from shared struggles. As guests began to trickle in, Janelle took a moment to soak in the scene. Laughter filled the air, the buzzing conversations creating a symphony of connection that made her heart swell. Families, children, and even familiar faces from her past mingled in the space, and that flicker of trepidation started to fade. But just then, her phone buzzed again. She glanced down, her breath catching. It was her friend from the cafe. "Are you ready for this?" The underlying tone was anxious, filled with unspoken fear. Taking a deep breath, Janelle replied with determination. "Yes, we're ready. This is our moment." She hit send, feeling a renewed sense of purpose coursing through her veins. They would share their stories today, rise against doubt together. "Let's start the workshop." Marcus's voice sliced through the chatter, grabbing Janelle's attention. He stood at the front, his face flushed with excitement and passion. She joined him, feeling the electric energy connecting us all. Janelle stepped onto the makeshift stage. "Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here. Today's not just about us sharing. We're all part of a bigger story." The room quieted, eyes focused on her. "It's about connection and resilience. We've faced judgment and pain, but we've also found strength in one another." As she spoke, warmth spread through the crowd. This was their moment of unity. The cheers returned when she called on Marcus, who boldly shared his passion for music and the healing it had brought him. One by one, people began to step forward. Laura, the teenager, and even the woman who had confronted Janelle at the last meeting shared their tales, weaving an intricate fabric of life experiences that resonated deeply. And then came Clara, her voice steady and inspiring. "I've been afraid of judgment too," she confessed, "but we can't let it define us. This space should celebrate our journeys." Cheers erupted in response, each voice echoing their shared struggles. Suddenly, Janelle caught sight of her old friend, standing at the back with hesitant eyes. It took everything in her not to sprint over. They locked eyes, the past, the present, and the possibility of a brighter future hanging between them. "Let's take a moment to hear from someone who represents the change we can create," Janelle announced, her gaze lingering on her friend. "I'd like my friend to join me." The crowd turned, curiosity alive in the air. Her friend hesitated, fear written on their face. Janelle's heart raced. Whatever had held them back previously needed to be faced now. "Come on, we're all here for each other," she encouraged gently. Finally, her friend took a deep breath and stepped forward. Janelle felt a mix of hope and fear. If they spoke of their experience, they might weave back the bonds fractured by time. "I've struggled with my own judgments," her friend began, "and recognizing the pain I've caused made me realize how important this moment is, for all of us." The honesty in their voice sent ripples of emotion through the crowd. As they spoke, Janelle glowed with pride and anticipation for the strength of their community. Perhaps today would be a catalyst for new beginnings, not just for her, but for everyone in the hall. As the day unfolded, conversations flew, connections formed, and laughter echoed through the hall. Janelle embraced people she once called friends and dared to share what had burdened her heart. And then came the moment, the final round of stories, a crescendo of shared highs and lows, leading to a choir of voices that burst forth in support. The room vibrated with energy, joy mingled with tears as connections forged new paths forward. Janelle looked around, the faces glowing with empowerment. "Together, we've built something incredible," she said, feeling the weight of what they had accomplished. "It's just the beginning. We can't stop here." The crowd erupted in applause, and Janelle barely registered the overwhelming sensation of hope blooming from within. The weight of doubt began to lift, replaced by the knowledge that they would stand together against anything that tried to tear them apart. As the event concluded and the sun began to set, Janelle stepped outside. All around her were newfound connections, friendships rekindled, and the resilient spirit of their community actively blossoming into something beautiful. Taking a moment to breathe it all in, she felt a warmth radiate inside her. It was the kind of love that could reshape lives and communities, and for the first time in years, she truly believed they could rise together. But this moment wasn't just for her alone. It was for all of them, collectively pushing against the past, assuredly moving forward into the light of what they would build next. And as she turned to face her friends, hearts beating in sync, she thought, this is what transformation looks like, and it starts today. If you felt the same rush of inspiration as Janelle, you need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support for more incredible stories. Leave a like now to empower the algorithm. Comment below with your feelings about this journey. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Every action amplifies our voices in this community.